All right, so like I said, want to show you how to make some of the basic stuffs for our jeweled ring project. Now, ideally, both I'm going to go through both the how to create a simple jewel, and again, this is not an actual jewel cutting class, so close enough is going to be close enough. And I also want this is also how we're going to learn how to use the basics on the pipe, sweep, and loft tools, which are all extremely similar but distinctly different. So let's hop on over to Fusion and we'll actually go through this stuff. All right, so simple here is I want to show you the basics on pipe, sweep, and loft. Now you can find these under Create, and they are distinct but very similar. Pipe creates a solid pipe, predetermined shape around a path. Path is just a sketch line. It can create a circular, square, or triangular shape. It can also create these as, what do you know, a pipe. So if I select something, this circle path, it's going to create a circle around that, which essentially becomes a toroid. I can drag it outward. I also do not have to make it go all the way around. Oops, not that one. I can make it partial. So if you need to make your own custom fun noodle connections. The distances are in factors of 1, 0 to 1. So 1 is all the way, and 0 is starting point. So starts from there, goes the way along. You can toggle the hollow or not, and if it's hollow, obviously you can set how thick it is. This is another form of the offset tool. So if you want it narrow, there you go, narrow wall, all of that. Same deal. How this gets expressed is up to you. Now, you can make a straight line. You could make squiggly three-dimensional lines. I'm going to show you how I don't know if we'll get to it today, but I'm going to show you how to make an undulating line. But that's essentially it. Sweep, however, allows you to create your own custom profile off of that shape. So what I've done here is, instead of a square, that is simply this weirdo, almost part of a drill bit, whatever, but started as a rectangle, just made some notches and a big old fillet, and you can stretch this or sweep it along your path, which is, again, that line, but you can also twist it however much you like. If you just want it 15 degrees, it'll be significantly less chaotic form. But if we're doing this in a circle, you do need to do it in increments of 360 degrees. Otherwise, you'll get errors out of it. If you are trying to get a single shape to rotate around a circular path and come back to original, it needs to be in multiples of 360. As in here. So the pipe basically twist with the sweep, which is just a rectangle in a whole bunch of increments. Let's see, where's that one? I'm not seeing the tool on the bottom here. But of course, you can combine these things to where, all right, that's super twisty. What if I had the pipe inside? Now I would have more of this kind of vine-like shape going around. That could totally work. That's an interesting way of creating that. The other option is the loft. Loft under here is essentially the next step, which is creates a transitional shape between two or more sketches along a path, or it doesn't have to be along a path, but in this case, we're going to use a path. And what that means is you can transition from circle to square, back to circle, yada, 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 and it fills in the gaps. It blends the two together. This is also extremely useful for, think of in terms of, like, if you've ever seen a cross section of like a boat hull, where you've seen all those different ribs and then they would stretch wood strips around that. That's your loft profiles. That's exactly what we'd be creating, a progression of profiles, and then it would create the surface around that. In this case, though, much more simplified, and it's following a path around. So with this, I was able to create, instead of these, I was able to make a transition between a rectangle and an oval. And now you can only do it on one side at a time, but that's fine. Follow along a path, mirror to make a copy, and now you have more of a wider ring. So you can see how we're going to be going along with this. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do today is just work through, make some basic examples. I'm going to show you the actual steps in a moment. From these things, we are going to create a full ring. And like I said, it does not have to be serious. This could totally be like ring pop style with an absurdly large jewel on top. But you're going to be making some sort of ring with some sort of jewel built in. Now, this jewel is built in a completely different manner, but it is essentially making a polygon, multi-sided shape, sketch, extruding upward, and then using a new tool or a different tool. We played with construction planes, but we're going to use one of the other types of planes through points, and use that to split surfaces off. And through all that, we can add additional features, basically exactly like we just did for the revolve vessel project, but you can add features and extrusions or embossments to create tables, all that sort for your ring. So that's essentially what we're going to do today. But to get started, I want to show everybody how are you going to use the pipe, sweep, and loft tool. So for this, you can follow along. I'm going to go through just showing some examples. So first, save. Pipe, sweep, loft, example. So in order to do this, I want you all to create a file, be able to do this so we can work along and you can build this out just so you understand how these tools work. So the first starting point would be create a sketch. And since I'm going to use an example, a ring as an example, you don't have to make it a circle. You don't have to make it a ring, but I'm just going to use a circle as my starting point. I selected the XZ axis, so I'm just straight in front of me. And I don't know, let's just make it a round number of 100, whatever. Okay, finish sketch. That's it. That's my that's going to be my profile, and I'm going to label it as such. Profile circle. Yours does not have to be a circle, but I do want you to just see how this works and want you to walk through it. All right, so we have a circle. That's it. Dunsky. To create a pipe, you select the pipe tool and you select your path. That is the path. That's literally it. That is how you make a pipe as a ring. Now you can see obviously the whole problem here is that's going to be a wee bit too basic. I'm going to show you how you can make this more complex later, but that's essentially it. So super good. We have a pipe. Congratulations. I'm going to label that as such. All right. I'm going to hide this. I got to unhide my sketch again, my profile sketch. Now I want to create a sweep. A sweep requires you to make your own actual profile sketch. Not just the circle, but we need something that is going to pull that sketch around in a circle. This is extremely similar to the revolve tool, only instead of by standard revolving directly around an axis, it can go either whatever. If I make this my path, this complete circle, yeah, it's essentially becoming a revolve. But if I use some kind of squiggly line back and forth, up and down through all three axes, it's going to follow that along. So how to create this? Well, create a sketch, but it needs to be perpendicular, meaning if I created the circle on the XZ plane, the red and blue, I need to create this one on the YZ plane, the green and blue. Now this gets a little tricky sometimes trying to center things, but one of the tools that helps you basically copy a sketch onto another is if I go to create or just press P, project. And I'm going to use the sketch setting. That just lets me select that circle that I made, hit OK. So now when I orbit over, you see how it's drawn this line? That is simply showing from the side what a circle looks like. And like what we did from the technical drawings, drafting, what does a circle look, or what does a cylinder look like from the side? A rectangle. What does a sphere look like from the side? Just a flat circle. So in this case, a flat circle from the side would be a straight line. That's it. So since I'm working here, now I can create my profile. I would recommend using center point tools. So like the center point circle, the center point ellipse, the center point rectangle, whatever you want. Let's play with the ellipse. All right, right there, let me draw outward. Doesn't matter how far. I don't know, 25, and we'll go up a little bit. Cool. Okay. Now, I want to modify this a little bit. So I'm going to draw a couple of circles built into this. So snap in the middle, I don't know, 3. Cool. And I'm just going to draw a couple more of these. This is just me adding some features. That is absolutely all. Not caring how far apart they are, anything like that. But I want to duplicate these, so I'm going to use the mirror tool. Blah. Where I copy those two, and I'm just going to use whatever line I can to copy over. That's literally it. I'm just making some features on this ellipse. So my closed ellipse will just have these notches cut in. That's it. That's the only reason I'm adding those. Okay, that's going to be my profile for my sweep. I'm going to label that sweep profile. Okay. Back to the home button. Now you see how, ooh, that's a bit of an optical illusion there, isn't it? Yeesh. Making my eyes hurt. Why is that? Oh, I think I accidentally made it on the bottom. Weird. Anyway, okay. I'm going to use the sweep tool. Like it says, exact same, only you're still selecting the same kind of profile, only this time you get your own, the path, same path, but you get to create your own profile. So I'm going to select that tool, type, yep, leave it as exactly as it is. My profile is that ellipse that I just made with the little notches out of it. And my path is the circle. And I've basically created a tire. Sorry, it's very tiring. I couldn't stop myself. I apologize. So there you go. So that's essentially what we're doing for that. Now, like I said, though, if you want to play with that, I'll just relabel that as sweep. And if you want to play with that, I'm going to go back, right click. Remember, if it's in a circle, you can twist this down at the bottom, twist angle, but it has to be in increments of 360. So if I twist it 360, does it once. 720, twist it again. So this is where you can get some really cool, weird shapes out of just this basic stuff. Obviously, if I was making that a ring, that would be one, extremely uncomfortable, and also probably have to make it a lot bigger. Make a pretty sweet bracelet, though. Okay, cool. So we have that. That's just making the basic sweep. Last one I want to experiment with is making a loft. Now you can either use the existing profile or you can make a new one. So again, create sketch, perpendicular to your path, your circle. Excuse me. If you want to use that profile again, great. If not, I'm just going to hide that. And I'm going to create something on top. And we'll use a rectangle this time. And you see how it's more difficult for me to snap my cursor to the edges of my path. I'm going to use project again. Bring up the P, project, just that sketch line. See now how there's an actual indicator on the end of that line. It's so much easier for me to snap my profile to. So I don't know, whatever. I'm just making a rectangle. Cool. Okay. And at the bottom, we're going to go with an ellipse. You could modify this as you like. Does not matter. I'm going to go back up just because I feel like it. I'm going to put a fillet on, let's see here. Let me round out the bottom. Remember, you can put multiple fillets around a rectangle if you don't press enter. See, it's saying 2. All right, bottom to side on that one. Now I can alter that, and it changes both of them together. All right, do that. Right click to bring up the same tool. I'm gonna alter the top one differenty. All right. And now instead of 2, I don't know, 5 more. I don't know. I could drag this too. Only so far though. Oh, looks like it's screwing up on me. I don't know. What did I say? 5? Okay, cool. There we go. All right. So I have now my 2 profiles for my loft. I have the top that I've altered. Looks kind of like a little bun. And then the ellipse down at the bottom. Great. Finish sketch. Now you can see how I have those both floating on the top and the bottom of my path. Create. Where's Loft? There we are. Loft. So I'm gonna now ordinarily, if you have multiple profiles, you have to select them in order. But since I just have 2, doesn't matter which one. Now, when you select the first one and then the second one, you're gonna get an error because it's trying to draw a section between. Oh, I accidentally selected the point instead of the profile. So let me uncheck that. There we go. Because it's trying to draw directly between the 2. That's not how it's going to work. So if you go just below, see where your options have popped up, where it says guide type. I'm going to go to center line, and then I'm going to select my path that I've been using. Now it knows that it wants me to create, or I want it to create that loft and transition between the 2, but based around that circle. And there you go. Now I have half of a lofted ring. I can use the mirror tool to copy that body, use the profile plane, and it snaps it around. If you want to keep them 2 separate, great. Otherwise, operation is going to be default join. And there you go. Links them all together. Save. Basic rings. Okay, so we're going to pause there. I'm going to go around and help people. I just want y'all to go through these so you can actually see how to use the 3 types of tools we're going to be using for this. Okay, so we went through the pipe, sweep, and loft tools. Just wanted to experiment with those just so you understand how these work. The next thing I want to do is show you how to create a simple jewel. Now, this one's a little bit more involved. I've got a whole bunch of examples on here, playing with different ones. Basically, we're going to make like a simple one. Now, again, this in no means is supposed to be a like jewel crafting class, any of that sort, but there's some different ways we can approach this. Using this method, using these methods, you could even make a elongated one just by splitting it, moving it, and extruding between. There's all kinds of different ways, all kinds of different fun. But I just want to show you the very basic methods for making a jewel shape for this. So you can use the exact same project we're working on now. I'm just going to hide these current tools and those. And in my case, just to help keep things a little bit better organized, I'm going to create a new component just because I want to keep things separate. And that's just over here. So far, we haven't really played with this, but this is just making a literal new component. Think of it in terms of, so far, if you're working with Photoshop, if you're working with different layers, so far we've been building everything on the same layer. This would create a new layer so you can isolate things between them. So this, I just want to do this. You could, if you want, start a new project. Doesn't matter. But I just want to show how to make a jewel. So you see how now it started on my project bar here. Whole new project. It activates it. You want to make sure you're actually activating with the little selecting the little bottom here. All that. It will have its own set of origin, sketches, and everything else. Great. This is what I want. Okay. So from here, as always, we start a new sketch. Every time, start a new sketch. I'm going to use the XY plane flat down. Okay. Smack in the middle is where we're keeping everything because it just helps keep everything organized. I'm going to create, and instead of rectangle, circle, any of that, I'm going to go to polygon. You can see there's 3 options. we're not going to worry about the edge polygon. There's two here, the top and bottom here, circumscribed and inscribed. All that means is polygons are based off of drawing a center point circle. Do you want the polygon on the inside of that circle or the outside of that circle? That is it. So if you expect it to be slightly smaller, go with the inscribed. Fine. Now, one of the main tricks with using this tool, do not hit enter until you are done. And just like Sketch Palette, or just like a lot of the other tools, if you decided, oh crap, I wanted to use the other one, you had a new set of tools comes up on your Sketch Palette toolbox. You can toggle between the edge polygon, circumscribed, and inscribed. But either way, smack in the middle. Oops, and I did not get it smack in the middle, so I'm gonna repeat. Remember, you don't have to go back and open it all back up. You can right-click to bring up the recent tool. I went smack in the middle. Okay. Now you see as I mouse out, I have a couple of tabs that come up. I have my dimension, my radius for the circle. You know, if I want to make it giant, sure. If you want to make anything smaller, great. And then I have the sides. Do not hit enter. What you need to do in order to change the amount of sides, press tab and change over. I'd recommend increments of 6, 12, basically anything higher. Even numbers though. Make sure it's an even number. Let's say 8. All right, so it's an octagon. Now I can either hit enter or if I want to snap. But I will also tell you, not that this isn't possible to fix later. Oops, let me just lock that in place. Try to make sure, we can always rotate it, but try to make sure that your cursor is snapping to one of the two major axes, either the red or the green, meaning the X or the Y axis. If you don't, it'll make it a little bit more awkward to work with, but try to snap it right in, zoom in, and you should be able to snap right on to see where my cursor goes from regular to a blue square. That's snapped in place. Cool. All right. Now my circle has become a octagon. Done. Okay, that's it. Finish sketch. All right. So I have my polygon, my octagon, my 8-sided piece here. I'm going to go to extrude. And to start, I just want like a tiny extrusion, like 1 millimeter, 0.5, whatever. It depends on how big you're working. This is going to be the starting point because it's extremely important that I have that split. Essentially, it'll be that top. All right. Now I'm going to perform 2 more extrudes, one going up, one going down. So repeat extrude, top, and I don't know, let's say 10, just because I am. But before I hit enter, because this is essentially the exact same thing, I've just stretched it, I'm going to go to taper. Now, an extremely common jewel cutting angle is 42 degrees. So I'm going to use that. Negative 42 because I want it to tip inward. And you see how now I have that split between that little bit of extrude that I started and now the tapered upwards. And it's negative, so it's going inwards. Okay, good. Orbit under, repeat. You can drag this down if you want. Make sure that it doesn't come to a point. I'll show you what I mean. Type in my negative 42. Do not go all the way down to where it comes to an absolute point. You can come real close, but don't go to a point. I need those. You will need that flat spot. So whatever. If you want to make it the same top as it is bottom, doesn't matter. But you need a flat spot on both the top and the bottom. So there we go. I've got just the basic shape. I'm just going to save. Oops, basic jewel extrude. Okay, cool. So again, I have an even number of sides. There we go. Now the next step is we're going to use, yeah, I know, slow performance. Thanks Fusion, I know. The next step we're going to use is I'm going to use a variation of the construction plane. So far, construction planes is just so you can move plane outward somewhere, work from there. But I'm going to go to construction plane through 3 points. You see it down here? Obviously, it goes through 3 points. Okay. This is going to allow me to chop facets off. So now, if I select, I'll need 3 points. 2 on the top, 1 in the middle. So 1, 2. Now if I zoom in, I'm not going below that original extrude. I need that little split. Top there. See how it's now going between those chunks. So I'm basically going to be chopping off that triangle. Okay. Now when I go to bodies, I'm going to have the same because I haven't altered anything. That's just a construction plane. It's just a representation. So now what I need to do is go to modify and split body. This chops a body on based off of either a sketch line, a full plane, or in this case, a construction plane. So I need to select my original body, the jewel, and my splitting tool is that construction plane. Makes a big old circle around, that's just a representation. Okay, now I have 2 different bodies. Hide that little snippet, and I can hide that construction plane. Cool, now I've created this additional facet. Now we're going to go back to the old circle pattern. I can select either faces or features. Might as well keep it at features. And do just like we did with the previous project of now I'm going to make duplicates of that feature. Select the axis, my z-axis. Now remember, how many sides did I make this? 6. So it needs to be quantity of 6. And I screwed it up royally. You're right. That's why I realized as I was hitting it. Thank you. I meant to hit that at 8. Much better. Now that made a whole bunch of bodies, and unfortunately that means I got to go and hide all of this mess. Let me see here. This is why it's important to label your stuff. What is my original? That one.
We have a very bunch of bodies together. So
Yeah, it should have been. It shouldn't have hidden all those, or it shouldn't have made all those duplicates. I shouldn't have needed to. I should have been able. It should have just sliced that. Let's see here. Yeah. I don't know why it made all those additional bodies instead of just duplicating that feature. Let's try that. Switch to facet. Oh, did I not have that? Ah. There we go. So I used features for some reason. I think I accidentally duplicated it. I think it accidentally duplicated the original one, or the original body, rather than the just that facet, that feature. And that's what I got out of it. Okay, so that's one of the ways to create. That's how you can create those features. And that just duplicated that over. All right, I want to do it to the bottom now. Construction plane, plane through 3 points. 1, 2. So you skip the middle one there. That middle one, you go to the bottom. Oh, actually, no, sorry. Scratch that, reverse it. I got that backwards because I'm looking underneath. So the 2 are on the outer plane on the top or the bottom. And then the 1 point is the one that's in the middle. There we go. Now, to chop that off, going to use the split body under modify. The original body. Cutting tool is that plane. Makes that big old circle. That's okay. All right. Hide that little snippet. Great. Now I need to duplicate that. I can hide the construction plane too. Pattern, circle pattern. Damn zoom thing. Let's do by faces this time. So I'm just duplicating that face. I need to rotate around the origin plane or around the z-axis. If it's hard to get at sometimes, you can temporarily hide that body you're working on. Now it's making this extreme bit only because I made it so tall. It would make these facets better if it was shorter. Make sure that your number matches the original. Okay. Makes fancy features. So that's just a way where you can add additional elements to something you've already made. So you made the polygon. I wanted to make it more involved. If you make more faces, you can get better results. If you get fewer faces, you get other results. Honestly, I highly recommend using more faces. You'll get a better result out of it. So like with these, playing around, and I realized I got mine mixed up as I was saying. So if you want a more standard result, use odd numbers, or better yet, 5, 10. The even number worked out better for this time. Really just depends on the number of faces and how the math works out on this. Experiment with different options, but want to see beyond just the original extrusion. You make the extrude top, you make the extrude down, so it's 3 total extrusions, 1 just to make that simple middle one, because you do need to have this little middle part. You can make it really thin if you need to, and then the extrude above, extrude below. So 3 extrusions total, and then we're using, lovely, and we're using the plane through 3 points to create the facets. You select top, bottom, and that creates that construction plane that you can use to split your body. So that's what I want to make. Simple jewel, play around with it. Doesn't matter how high or low. It's up to you. If you want to make it a short little squat one, if you want to make it even more, go crazy with the number of facets. Play around with it, experiment, but I want to help you make a basic jewel just so you can figure out how this works. Okay, so jewel looks great. We're going to play around with that. That's going to be one of the basic components. Remember, that could be bigger, smaller, whatever you please. But last thing I want to show on here is going back to the rings. So I will hide the jewel because I don't need that right now. I'm going to reactivate the full project, sorry. And I want to unhide my pipe ring. Now, the reason is because I want to bring up the other ones. Yep, you can obviously do all kinds of stuff with the sweep, with the loft. You can play around with those all kinds of manner. I showed you some of the other examples of ways you can add features to the surface. You can make that wider. We can make like a table come up, whatever. But when it comes to the pipe tool, you cannot just make a simple pipe. It can't just be an absolute circle, a little super thin donut. There needs to be more to that. But all that means is, all right, you can take that quite literally and make multiples. So let me move the little zoomy thing in over here. All right, pipe tool. I just want to shrink that a little bit. So I'm going to make that more of like, I don't know, 5? Sure, whatever. Okay. The reason I'm doing this is because I need to make copies of this in order to make it more, literally. So I'm going to select there. I'm going to use the move tool. And I want to make bodies. Oh, yes, that's same thing. Thank you. But I would get the same effect if I just copy and pasted. But if you're using the move tool, I want you to make sure to select create copy. Now I'm going to use one of these rotate tools. I'm going to just move it over like, I don't know, 15 degrees, 20 degrees. Doesn't matter. Okay. 15. Cool. Hit OK. See how it's making my duplicates. You can probably get an idea where I'm going with this. This time I'm going to use copy paste. If it works, man. See? All right, cool, good. It's not working. Great. So copy again, bodies, great copy. This part gets tedious if it's forcing you to do it this way. -15. All right, super duper. Do it again. Repeat copy move. This time I'm going to rotate it that way. Why is it on faces? Keeps defaulting back to faces. Don't know why. Again, copy. The copy paste didn't work for me this time. I don't know why. It just didn't. What's that? 15? Cool. One more time. Hey, it actually saved 2 bodies this time. Thanks. 15. All right, now we got a friggin' super deluxe situation going here. So obviously I got like a whole bunch of bodies here and I need to combine them. So target body and the rest, yep, all the things. Compresses everything back to a pipe tool. Now I got a super fancy inlaid pipe ring. So more play with that way. If you want, you can most certainly have instead, let me just back up real quick. If this looks kind of wonky to you on the edges, as far as design thing goes, yeah, sure. Let's still for some reason, why did I keep defaulting to faces? Let's make a duplicate of that one, that middle one, and I want, God, I don't know why the copy paste isn't working for me. I'm going to move 1, sure, 13, and I'm going to repeat that again. Middle situation. And I say 13 just because that looks like about where it lined up. Nice. Okay. Now let's join them all again. Boop. There you go. So now it's just a slightly better ring, and that is looks all kinds of fancy and intricate, and all it is literally just copy, well, if the copy and paste works for you, is copy and paste and just rotate. However much you rotate it one direction, on your next copy, rotate it the same amount the opposite direction. Or don't. Make it all kinds of wonky. That's totally up to you. I'll show you some other examples later, but right now I just really wanted to focus on the pipe, sweep, and loft tool and how to go about using the plane through 3 points to create facets on your extruded polygon jewel. So those are going to be the main working points for this project. Homework is going to be with those ideas in mind, come up with some ideas, do your drawings. I want to see a couple of different ideas. Obviously, a three view sketches would work standard, but I mean, on a ring, well, for the top obviously looks different, but I mean the front, if it's going to be like a circle, well then whatever. Or the side is going to be kind of the side. So you make that decision. Depends on if depends more of if you wanted to do something that had along the lines of wider sides that you could then add designs or features to. That would make more sense. Really just up to you. Main thing is these are the main tools we're using for this project. Have those in mind as you play around with your ring or bracelet or earrings or neck, whatever. Again, the idea is something wearable, that sort of thing. I've even gone on to the full example of, let's see, where's on my examples here, because I have so many different of these opened. No, I don't actually have it open right now. I've even made like bracers or something, but anyway, ideally it's some sort of flashy jewelry based thing. Anyway, play around with those. Those are the main ideas, and we will work on them more next class.